24 minutes and 20 seconds. He talks about an article, Michael L. Brown, who I have talked about previously on the program, for issues relating to the charismatic movement and various issues I have with Michael Brown. I'm gonna play the clip. What James White says about this is Michael Brown. He basically defending James White. We're gonna listen to that. It's 24. I'm saying these time references especially for people on MegadoRadio.com, and again, remember MegadoTV.com for those who will be listening to this and want to watch the video later on. There will be a video of this on YouTube or at MegadoTV.com, and you just go and click on it. Okay.
Most of you know that a article was published on American Thinker over the weekend. I asked for the opportunity of responding and was turned down, of course. And Michael Brown was aware of this, and so he's attempting to get an article because he's got a lot more contacts as far as the publishing industry is concerned. And we're still hoping to get something. They'll only give him less than half the space, even if anything happens. And I'll be honest with you, we've sort of got a little joke going. He's the optimist. I said my middle name is Eeyore. So if he does get something published on American Thinker, then he wins on that one. But I don't think it's going to happen. But he sent me the article he originally wrote and gave to them, which was a little bit shorter than the original thing. And they're like, it's way too long, blah, 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 blah. But I read it, and it was great. And just extremely touching that he would take the time to write something like this and weigh in on this and do research. And it's going to get published one way or the other. Obviously, he has other avenues of publishing that he can utilize, but it's going to be out there hopefully within the next couple of days. Obviously, I'll be linking to it in regards to our social media accounts and things like that. I'll be letting people know how they can get hold of it as well. But it should be out probably by tomorrow.
Okay, we have the article here, and I'm just going to quote briefly from it. Look, I talked about Michael Brown, when was it, about a year ago. If you just go to MegadoRadio.com, type in Michael L. Brown, or just go to the tabs at the bottom of the page. I've done about 4 or 5 shows exactly. I did a show called Michael Brown and the Gullible Charismatic Movement. I'm using his words about his own movement. And he said in that article, I am ashamed, I'm kind of paraphrasing off the top of my head here, I am ashamed of how we're gullible, being duped. I might actually get that, maybe dig it up there. But in that article, he wrote for Charisma Magazine, he admitted the gullibility, especially the lack of discernment that is in the charismatic movement. Now, this is coming from a guy who defended Benny Hinn, heretic Benny Hinn, who once said that there was 9 members of the Godhead, wrote an article against Justin Peters for daring to document all this. This same Michael Brown. Now, I try to be gracious where things are possible, but this man has defended charlatan after charlatan after charlatan. Enough. It just really makes me upset that this guy still says he was on Benny Hinn's show back in 2014, and he has the gall to say, well, I'm just too busy to actually know. I don't know if all these things are true, but I'm going to write an article against somebody who's actually done the research, like Justin Peters, people like that, and he criticizes the critics. This Michael Brown. Okay? Well, we'll deal with what he said in a second. So he defended Benny Hinn. He whitewashed Bill Johnson. I've dealt with this in the show before. Heretic, Enior, Word of Faith. I mean, I've dealt with some of his books on the program. Disgusting stuff in his books. Gold dust coming down from the sky. Bill Johnson. I don't know if you've ever seen that. They believe feathers are coming out of the sky, and it's from Psalms, and it's just so bizarre. And also, Mike Bickle is a man of God. No, this is the guy who's saying there's no discernment. There's the lack of discernment in the charismatic movement. He's one of the defenders of the charismatic movement. Now we're going to him for a defense? One of the arguments he uses, right? And again, James White says this is great. He gives one of the examples he gives. He says, on a trip to Germany, I met a pastor from Ghana who has served in Germany for the last 26 years. He was an extraordinary ministry. He has an extraordinary ministry to Muslims and has baptized 1,000 ex-Muslims in the last 10 years. Praise the Lord. I preached in his church in Dusseldorf years ago, so I'm familiar with his work. On any given Sunday, you will find 200 ex-Muslims worshiping with him. So he is certainly a seasoned professional. Unnamed person. I mean, when it comes to reaching the Muslim world, this is akin to, he's going to look for his opinion in a second. I was talking to Johnny down the road. You don't know Johnny, but he's really good at theology, and he thinks James White's fantastic. That's not an argument. That's anecdotal. I mean, I asked him in an entirely neutral way what he thought of a colleague of mine having a dialogue like this with an imam. One night in a church and one in a mosque. He replied with enthusiasm, "This is divine wisdom. This is the grace of God. He should do it." So therefore, unnamed person from Ghana who's in Dusseldorf is now the authority. Okay, when I made it clear to him that the imam would get to share his beliefs with Christians in a church building, this pastor said, "Let him say what he wants." Let him say what he wants. Yeah, that sounds incredibly biblical, especially when you compare it to his first commandment. In our church, he would influence no one. That's not biblical. Weaker Christians can be influenced by false teachers. And this guy, who's a seasoned professional, isn't. He needs to, there's no other way to say that. You protect, that's what a shepherd is supposed to do, is an under shepherd. Protect and feed the flock. But it's this anecdotal, it's like, what was it? He will influence no one, but we should share Jesus with the Muslims.